Winding up the week the best way possible. This is K24 This Morning. Welcome to the show. My name is Jeff Morte. Of course, as always, we start off the show by looking at matters politics, matters current affairs, see what's happening as far as our newspaper review is concerned, and see what we're waking up to as far as our dailies are concerned, and have some pertinent conversations as well right here on the show. As always, you can be part of the discussion throughout. You can get me at I am Jeff Morte or at K24 TV. That's on Twitter. You can also get me on WhatsApp. The WhatsApp number is scrolling at the bottom of your screen therein. By the way, you can get yourself a copy of your People Daily. You don't need to go about, get yourself a physical copy. You can get it from the luxury of your house. If you're in the office already watching from the office, you can get it from there as well. And the number that you dial is *550*4#. Once again, the number is *550*4#. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. It's brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. And the beauty about it is that you don't need to get a mobile app. You don't need any data on your phone for that. Just that number that I've given you, which is *550*4#. Dial it and get yourself a copy of your People Daily. It's brought to you by the PD and Safaricom. And as always, that's where we start. See what the headline in the People Daily is as you get yourself your e-paper. And there we have it. Let's scroll up and see what we're waking up to. Court orders MPs to refund 1.2 billion shilling pay. Quite an unprecedented ruling on this one as it stands right now. Legislators had bypassed the SRC in awarding themselves a house allowance of 250,000 shillings each. Move was illegal and they have to pay back. That's a story you can get in your copy of your People Daily. It's on page 5 therein. The Speaker of the House, Justin Muturi, also weighing in on the same situation, talking about, curiously, the same benefits have been extended to the executive and the judiciary, but without any undue focus. So clearly, reading between the lines, feels like the National Assembly has been targeted as far as this is concerned. And you can find that story as well, like I said, on page 5 of your People Daily. Let's scroll up to the top and see what we have right there. Signatures done. IEBC asks, where is money for vote? So even as we move forward closer to the referendum, really the question is, where do we get the money to put this together? Let's not forget the fact that even as we spoke about the money needed for a referendum process, there was a back and forth that took place between the chair of the commission, Wafula Chebukati, and the former PM, Raila Odinga. And what exactly, and the issue of contention really was, what exactly is the cost when it comes to conducting such a process? Well, here we are again, and now we know the actual figure that's needed to move this process forward. That story is on page 8. And a story that borders on the comical, if it wasn't due to matters being life or death on this one. Passerby who landed 180 million shilling KEMSA deal. Now, James Juguna, a COVID equipment supplier, tells MPs he was walking past the authorities' office when he noticed a crowd, and upon asking, was told what was happening, to fill a form, and he left with a big tender, a tender worth 180 million Kenya shillings. A stroke of luck, or is there more than meets the eye? Now, this story is on page 6 of your People Daily. You can get all the details of that particular story therein. Let's look at what we have in the Standard now, on the Standard's front page. It's all about matters BBI. Man holding the BBI ball. The constitutional change process is now in the court of the Electoral Commission, with its chair certainly issuing terms of a robust and quick clearance of the Building Bridges initiative. This is on page 6, and of course, he's already detailed the 5 stages this should go through as far as the process is concerned. First of all, they'll need the money for this process to start. So once they receive the money to start verification of the 4.4 million signatures, inspect the bill to ensure it matches the one published before signatures were collected. Hand over the bill to the county assemblies, where 24 of these county assemblies must approve. Bill then moves to the National Assembly for approval. IBC at that particular point will formulate the referendum question, and that's what you've been hearing with the back and forth of, is it going to be a yes or no question? Will we have multiple questions in there? Well, as you can see at this particular point in time, and all manner of indications just pointing to the fact that it probably might be one question, but we'll see how this also develops as we follow this particular story on the process. IBC plans and conducts the referendum vote at that particular point in time. So this is what they need to do, and this is what they have in their entry as far as the commission is concerned. The details of that can be found in your copy of your Standard therein. Let's look at the front page of the Daily Nation now. End of bold but troubled tenor. He made history by nullifying results of the 2017 presidential election, but his term had its share of problems, with the judiciary starved of cash and refusal by the president to appoint judges turning the CJ into a constant complainer. Now, we did hear severally when the CJ spoke about the fact that he had tried to access the president, couldn't quite get through, and this he said in public fora. So even as he heads on now to his terminal leave, what happens to this particular space in time? Who fills this particular position? Many questions being asked on that particular front, but you can get that story on page 6 and 7 of your Standard therein. And even as you look at that, in the PD, we saw a man named James Juguna who was walking by the KEMSA offices and bagged himself a tender of 180 million Kenya shillings. He didn't even know what was going on at the time. And we have an equally puzzling story here. Same scandal as we're talking about. And they're calling it Omata. This lady is not for the talking. When Ms. Ivy appeared before the parliamentary committee investigating the COVID-19 scandal at KEMSA, MPs expected her to unmask the real faces behind Killig, the firm that has awarded a 4 billion shilling tender. But as if sworn to a code of silence, she would not. Didn't know the people who went to receive the tender. There was lots that she said there that really had more questions than answers. And you can find that story on page 4 of your Daily Nation today. Front page of the Star now, succession plots rock judiciary as Maraga departs. Now, activist Okia Mtata dashes to court to stop DCJ from acting, says she's unfit. Now, she would have been the natural successor to this particular position, at least even in the interim, as they get the way forward on this. But now with a court case, as far as this process is concerned, that is definitely a spanner in the works. And that story is on page 4 and 5 of your Star this morning. Finally, front page of the Business Daily, betting firm under probe for 640 million shilling M-Pesa pay. Assets Recovery Agency raises doubts over the source of Mozart Bet's millions in court case. This, of course, making front and center as far as this particular story is concerned. And even as you look at that, auctioneers sue banks for snubbing forced sale of seized assets, especially now with a depressed economy. Very many people have been defaulting on their loans, and that being the lifeblood of the business as far as auctioneers are concerned. So that a key point of contention between the auctioneers and the banks. And that story can be found in your copy of your Business Daily today. So as you can see right now, talking about matters BBI, where do we go from here? The process seems to be ready to move on to the IBC, but the IBC talking about the fact that they want to do it, but they do not have the resources, they don't have the money. So let's set the stage on that as well. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission says it does not have funds to facilitate the commencement of the BBI signatures verification exercise, thus throwing the quest for a referendum into limbo. IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati says unless the National Treasury blinks, the signatures will remain untouched. Martin Opio had this story. Apologies for that technical hitch on that. We'll try and remedy that and bring that story to you later on in the program. But that would actually set the stage for where we're going with this. That story can be found as well in your copy of your People Daily therein, in your Standard as well. Just talking about where we go from here, even as a way to get this money to move this process forward. We have a very able panel to go through this particular discussion. So let's get to them. In studio, Ruth Ambogo, Youth Policy and Governance Expert. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Asante.
Asante Sana. Thanks for making time to be here. Also joined by Isa Basil Matthews, a political analyst. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu Sana.
Yes, thank you.
Asante Sana. Welcome to the show. We'll also be joined by Mark Bichachi, a communication expert, to talk about this particular issue as well. So let's start from where it is right now, because interesting story on the front page of the PD. Quite an unprecedented ruling when you think about it. Court ordering MPs to refund 1.2 billion shillings in pay, talking about the house allowance that they gave themselves, illegal, and ordering that money paid back. We're standing and looking at this, Ruth,
yes,
from the point of view that the very institution that should check how money is spent is the same one spending this money with impunity. What's your take on this?
Well, this is an interesting story because when I saw the story come up yesterday, the one thing that I was asking myself is that these members of parliament, will they be willing to return that amount of money?
Right.
And when it comes to the salaries that that salaries and allowances that they allocate to themselves, right. Do they ever think about the common mwananchi now that we are seeing most of them talking about the interest of the common mwananchi when it comes to the BBI process and the fact that there is no money? But then you generally would get a sense of silence when it comes to issues such as them illegally allocating themselves allowances, So for me as a Kenyan, I think that this is something that is going to be interesting, waiting to see whether members of parliament would actually stand up and say that, yes, indeed, we illegally allocated ourselves allowances and we are going to return back that money, which is something that as an ordinary Kenyan, you know how our politicians behave. It is almost next to impossible to see them return that money. But we are waiting to see, because right. On issues that, based on their own interest, on issues where their interests are served, you would rarely hear them talk about the interests of the common mwananchi. You'd rarely hear them talk about the fact that, oh, this money that we legally allocated ourselves would have probably been used for other purposes. But then when their interests are not served, they are up in arms talking about the interests of the common mwananchi. So right. I think for me as a Kenyan, I'm going to be very keen to see their reactions on this particular issue. Okay.
Yeah. It's quite an unprecedented ruling from the judiciary on this particular issue. Does this underscore the fact that we indeed have an independent and robust judiciary that's up to the task when it comes to even making the tough rulings?
I think this was a very good decision that was made by the court. I remember, I think the last 1 year, you were here talking about the same thing. And I remember these MPs complaining that majority of them came to Nairobi and they have no places to stay. They rather don't have houses to live in. And I remember we also told them that we have so many graduates who actually walk from Nakuru and Eldoret and Kisumu to Nairobi. Some even ask money from the grandmothers who don't have anything to come to Nairobi and look for jobs. But they survive and they still make it at the end of the day. So, Jeff, if you have not understood the term consensus as it has been used, you will see it in Parliament. These guys will gang, they will come together. They will meet in hotels, they will meet at night and everywhere. Right. They will still go to court and come up with a formula that will make this ruling somehow be rejected.
Right. So you don't see that money going back to
I think it will take a while if it is going to be a success. That's my thinking. Okay. Because these are the same people, we know them, we know how they work. When it comes to money, there is no DM, there is no Jubilee, there is no Kiereweke, there is nothing. So they are MPs, members of parliament, and they are going to work hard so that this thing can actually fail. But I think Kenyans are watching, just like my sister have said. Right. Kenyans are watching, and you see now, I think this is also timely because we are almost to the next general election, 2022. So you're also going to see people who are going to talk about it in a very negative way. We're also watching, and even our Wananchi are also watching so that they can make decisions.
Okay. Let me bring in Mark as well. Mark Bichachi, if you can hear me. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Jeff.
Well, Karibu, welcome to the show.
Asante sana, nice to see you. In fact, I should welcome you. You've been the one who's been away. So welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show. It's interesting because as Issa says that he really doesn't see this 1.2 billion shillings going back to Treasury. And you look at what the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, is saying. Curiously, and this is a quote from him, curiously, the same benefits that have been extended to the executive and the judiciary, but without any undue focus. This is the same thing Justin Muturi said when there was the gender issue, the two-thirds gender issue. He never admits failure. He points fingers to other institutions saying, but also, even this other person has done. Do you have faith that the 1.2 billion shillings goes back to Treasury?
No, that's called whataboutism, and it's a very good political strategy. I'll give you an example. When you say BBI, people go like, "What about COVID-19?" So you try and deflect everywhere, and it works in terms of political strategy. But now, in terms of whether the Parliament will actually obey the court orders, I doubt it. Not because the court orders are wrong. I think the court orders are quite right, and we debated this when they first came out with these rules. And the biggest issue is how can you accrue yourself a benefit that does not come from the SRC, and that is constitutionally and wrong. But here's the real problem. The real problem is, number one, the Parliament will sit down and try to come up either with a law or something to try and circumvent SRC. That's the first thing they will do. But where is the solution? The solution is here. The problem is that we Kenyans do not give our politicians a political consequence for their actions, okay? So if Parliament today, your parliamentarian is going to fight to receive an illegal allowance, and then you go and queue to vote for them, then that's where the real problem is. And the problem has always been that our political class is insulated from political consequence for what they do. This is the problem. So they can do the craziest things on earth, but they have no political consequence. So for example, we've got DJ Evolve and Babu Owino. Will Babu pay a political consequence for it? We don't know. We've got a host of examples. So we as a country, what we are discovering is our goldfish like amnesia and our memory that cannot last beyond the next corner. Is it going to last until 2022? The issue is not getting 1 billion back. The issue is, can the electorate take its power back, take the expectations of democracy back? If we can't do that, and there is a likelihood that Sonko can still be governor, then, my friend, these illegal allocations shall continue until the cows come home.
And let's talk about that even as we talk about the people taking back that power, and switch a conversation forward to where we were taking it earlier. And this is the BBI process where it is right now. Consensus or contest, that word has been thrown around for quite a while. The train has been leaving the station for equally as long. Yet here we are with a situation where the signatures have been presented at this particular point in time. Ruth, from where you stand, the IBC has already spoken about the fact that they don't have money, but that seems like it's easily sorted out. But in terms of moving the process forward, are we seeing a situation where now we actually have real divisions with the citizens because of this particular process? You know,
I like the fact that you've said real divisions with the citizens, because the whole question of consensus or a contested referendum has been reduced to whether a politician or certain politicians will support the process or go against, oppose the process. So therefore, the citizen aspect sort of gets removed from it, where you're asking yourself, what's the voice of the common mwananchi in this particular process? That if the common mwananchi decides that I am going to support this document, you know, or I'm going to oppose this document, do we actually factor that in, or do we just look at which politicians are supporting the process and which ones are bound to oppose the process? So I think for me, I always say that, you know, I've always said that, and I still stand by this, that a referendum is basically, it's a question of choice. It's a question of, are you supporting something, are you opposing something? That nobody should force you to accept a certain position just because they agree with it, and neither should anyone, you know, force you to go against your position because that is what you believe in. So for me, I'm saying we are being given an opportunity as Kenyans to sit down, look at a document, look at a bill, and ask ourselves, is this what is good for the country? Is this what will steer the country forward? And if we do agree with it, then we say yes. You know, if we do not agree with it, then we say no. And as they say, the train has left the station. At this point, we cannot be talking about people now coming on board and saying, you know, we still need to collect extra views, we still need to incorporate more views. And I think the process has been, the drivers of the process have been quite, how do I put it, they've been quite fair in terms of opening up the process to inclusion of new ideas and to the removal of certain ideas that certain groups of people were not agreeing with. So to this point, I would like to just say that, you know, the process has taken off, and if we are supporting, if you're supporting it, support it. If you're opposing it, oppose it. So because it's not, this is not being forced down your throat. Remember, we've had referendums before. We had one in 2005 that people looked at and said, we are not ready to have these changes that you're proposing. And then now the 2010 that people agreed with. So it's not a question, it's not cutthroat that you have to support the document. And neither is it cutthroat that you have to oppose it. So for me, I say that I stand by that. Okay, Issa, I'll come to you on this, because Ashi says if you're for it, support it. If you're not, I mean, you have the right to say no as well. But the counter argument to that is the fact that saying yes or no sort of polarizes the country, because that's what politicians will use to get their political capital. So how do we make sure that at the end of it, we actually come out on the other side of BBI more united than now having the yes faction of people and the no faction of Kenyan citizens?
If you observe closely, you'll find that Kenyans have started becoming independent as far as making decisions. Initially, Kenyans used to think about the authorities that speaks for them. not the policies that speaks on their behalf. So if you look at those readers who are saying yes or no, and the Kenyans who are saying that we are going to reject this BBI, you find that we are moving in a totally different angle, all of us. So expect something very different this particular time, this time around, as far as this referendum is concerned.
What do you think that difference would be?
People will make decisions based on what they are understanding so far. So, and I know there are people who have not even read this thing, especially those people in the villages. But I think they're also going to benefit from the media and those people who have read the documents and understood, like people who are talking in the media like us. But making decision will be very different this time around. If you listen to people from ODM, you'll hear them saying that I respect Raila Odinga and I'm going to vote for him come 2022. But for this BBI, I have not understood it and I'm going to vote no. Those kind of things. So I think we are moving, we are progressing. We may not say that we are doing badly, we are progressing. So at the end of the day, we will find ourselves at a certain point, all of us. So this issue of to contest, people who are saying that we have moved on, we need to contest, yes or no. So I think you also need to be very careful as far as readership is concerned. As readers, the thing that we tell people, we need to be very careful. Because at the end of the day, if you look, I know all of us check on what people are saying in the media. We have divisions already. There are people who are already insulting others. Just because you say that I reject this BBI, and somebody said that I want this BBI, so we have people who are already insulting each other on the same. So I'm imagining now you start going around for rallies and telling people that this thing is bad or this thing is good. So what happens at the end of the day? Okay. So those are the things that we don't want to see. And I think we have read long enough to remember some of the things that have happened. Right. And I keep on telling my friends, every time I think about those kind of things, I remember how, because we used to watch news at those particular times when people became divided, they were fighting, those kind of things. We don't want to go there. But we can actually agree to disagree and disagree to agree at the same time. Okay. And I know that thing is there. But there is a fact on the table already. The signatures has been given out. And the proponents, I will call them secretariats, have already given out the signatures. So their mandate have added. So it is now the IEBC to make things work for us. Right. So whether they are going to give us structured questions, whether they are going to give us one question, now it's up to them. So as the process moves on, it passes through the counties, it's accepted, then it goes to the parliament and the Senate, and then we get the question at the end of the day. So it is now the Wajiko now to make the decision. Okay. So, but I would wish that the players, the major players, the politicians, I would wish that they carry this thing in a nice way, so that they don't know going to pour emotions around. Let me get Mark in. We have a couple of minutes before we get to our first break, Mark. Because if our country's memory serves us right, the last time we had a referendum, that actually birthed a political party. That's where ODM came from the Orange Movement at that particular point in time. And that's where these divisions came in, politically speaking. So from where you're standing and from your assessment of this particular process so far as BBI is concerned, after the referendum, are we having a situation, just like I'm asking Issa, where we have a more united, a more cohesive society, or will we have now drawn a deep line in the sand? For Mark is a yes proponent, he voted yes, and these are the guys who voted no.
You know, it's interesting, and I want us to just analyze your question a little bit. So number one, the argument is by some class of politicians that because they disagree with BBI, as themselves, then BBI is causing division. Yet, in the same statement and in the same logic, they say the unity of Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta does not constitute bringing people together. But then when they leave, it constitutes taking people apart. Okay? Now, you see where the logical misnomer is. Now, the facts are this. The number one, every peace treaty in the world is signed between individuals. If you go to South Sudan today, you will not find 30 people who signed a peace treaty between Maladit and the city and Kiir. You will not find it because it's Salva Kiir and Maladit who will sign a peace deal. So that's number one, how we need to understand it. But number two, the BBI document can only be understood with the perspective of removing Uhuru Kenyatta as a presidential candidate, or indeed a prime minister candidate come 2022. And this is what we need to underscore. Because if you look at it from that prism, then you think, oh, okay, where is he going to get something? But when you realize that only a president that is exiting power would be interested in doing two things, and this is very critical. Number one, interested in ensuring that counties get 35%. Okay? Only a president who does not need to deal with the mathematics of 35% would do that, because there's no way you want to keep opposition by defunding it. But the second part is this, that who wants to create a system where you've got to share power? So the thinking around this, whether you agree or disagree, is you've got to remove yourself from the desires of the political class. And the political class have desires for clout, others have desires for 2022, and then put yourself in a circumstance and ask yourself, do I want 35% for counties? Do I want that people who live in counties that are overpopulated to be just as represented as people who live in constituencies that are underpopulated? These are the key and critical questions that we need to ask. Okay. But if we continue like this, and this is my last statement, where we listen to each other like this with our hands in our ears saying, la, 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 I do not want to hear you, then we will have a truly divided nation. Because let's remember, this referendum, this constitution we have did not pass by 100%. There was 40% of Kenyans who said no. Why did we say that we were divided then?
Okay. Fitting point to take a break on the show as far as this is concerned. Of course, we want your views as well. You can get me at I am Jeff Moti or at K24 TV. Even as we move forward with this, the WhatsApp number also at the bottom of the screen. You take a short break. We are back with more, even as we ask ourselves, where is the money for this particular process? This is K24 This Morning.